How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera. Imagine this, a cozy log cabin nestled in the peaceful woods of upstate New York. It's supposed to be a retreat, a sanctuary from the world. But inside, a woman in her early 30s, a psychologist, who's supposed to have all the answers, finds herself crying into her morning oatmeal, like her heart might break. This wasn't just a rough morning, this was rock bottom. On paper, her life looked perfect. She had a partner who loved her, her own therapy practice, everything she'd worked so hard to build. But inside, she felt empty, disconnected, like she was watching her own life from behind glass. Her body was betraying her too, with brain fog that wouldn't lift, stomach problems that doctors couldn't explain, and fainting spells that came out of nowhere. She looked around at this life she'd carefully constructed, and a terrifying question whispered in the silence. Is this really all there is? That woman was Dr. Nicole LePera, and that moment in the cabin, as dark as it felt, wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. It was the moment she stopped searching for answers in all the usual places and started looking inward, on a journey that would completely flip everything she thought she knew about mental health, healing, and what it actually means to feel whole. What she discovered became something called holistic psychology, and she started sharing it online as the holistic psychologist. Her personal healing journey turned into something much bigger, a global movement that attracted millions of people who all felt the same way. Stuck. They called themselves self-healers, and they were finally ready to do the work. So what is this work exactly? And why has Dr. LePera's message connected with so many people? That's what we're diving into today. By the time we're done, you'll understand the hidden forces that have been running your life on autopilot. You'll see why you keep falling back into the same patterns no matter how hard you try to change, and most importantly, you'll discover the key to breaking free. This isn't just about understanding a book, it's about understanding yourself. So let's get started. Have you ever woken up one day and decided, with every fiber of your being, that this is it? Today you're finally going to eat better, stop putting things off, or cut ties with that person who drains all your energy. You feel that rush of determination. This time is different. This time it's going to stick. And then it doesn't. A few hours later, maybe a few days if you're lucky, you're right back where you started, reaching for the junk food, scrolling mindlessly on your phone, texting that person you promised you'd ignore. And that little voice in your head starts up again. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just change? This feeling of being completely stuck is one of the most universal human experiences. Dr. Nicole LePera saw it in every single person who walked through her office door. It didn't matter if they were wildly successful or struggling to get by. They all shared this same frustrating reality. They couldn't seem to create lasting change in their lives. They could often see their patterns clearly. They knew exactly what they needed to do differently, but they just couldn't do it. It was like some invisible force kept pulling them back to familiar territory. And here's the thing, there actually is an invisible force at work. Dr. LePera explains that for about 95% of our day, we're not actually in control. We're running on autopilot. Think about your morning routine. You take a shower, brush your teeth, make your coffee, maybe drive to work or school. Have you ever arrived somewhere and thought, wait, how did I even get here? You weren't consciously thinking about every turn, every stoplight. Some other part of you was handling it. That part is your subconscious mind, and it's running a program that was written a very long time ago. This program has one main goal, keeping you safe. And to your subconscious, safe means familiar. Your brain has a built-in mechanism Dr. LePera calls the homeostatic impulse. It's the same force that regulates your body temperature and heartbeat without you thinking about it. But it also regulates your mental and emotional world. It works overtime to keep you in your comfort zone, to return you to the patterns, habits, and feelings it recognizes. Here's the twist. Your brain doesn't care if that familiar state actually makes you happy. It only cares that it's predictable. If your childhood was filled with chaos and anxiety, then a state of calm might feel deeply unfamiliar and therefore unsafe. Your subconscious will actually create thoughts and urges to pull you back into the familiar storm of anxiety, because, as strange as it sounds, that's what feels like home. So when you try to make a change, you're not just fighting a bad habit, you're fighting a deeply ingrained survival instinct. Your mind and body send out an alarm. This is new. This is different. It might not be safe. Go back to what we know. This is the mental resistance that screams at you to stay in your old patterns. It's not a character flaw. It's biology. But this feeling of being stuck isn't just happening in your mind. Dr. LePera's own breakdown, with all its physical symptoms, taught her that our bodies are keeping score. This led her to one of the most profound insights in the book. We need to completely expand our understanding of trauma. When most of us hear trauma, we picture catastrophic events, what experts call big T trauma. These are absolutely life-altering experiences. The book introduces something called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Test, which measures these kinds of major traumas like abuse or neglect. But Dr. LePera realized this definition was way too narrow. What about everyone else? The people who had normal childhoods, with loving parents and food on the table, but still feel deeply unwell, disconnected, or stuck. This is where she introduces a revolutionary understanding of trauma. Trauma, she says, isn't just what happened to you, it's what happened inside you as a result. She defines it as any experience that occurs in a state of helplessness, an experience that overwhelms your ability to cope. And for a child who depends completely on their caregivers, these moments can happen all the time in very subtle ways. This little t trauma is often spiritual and emotional. It's the trauma of not being seen, not being heard, or not being allowed to be your authentic self. It's having a parent who, maybe out of their own unresolved pain, dismisses your feelings by saying you're being too sensitive. It's having a parent who is so caught up in their own anxiety that they're emotionally unavailable, leaving you feeling alone. It's having a parent who subtly molds you to fit their unfulfilled dreams, teaching you that your worth depends on your achievements. In these moments, a child learns a devastating lesson. To be loved and to survive, I have to betray myself. I have to hide the parts of me that aren't acceptable. This creates a fundamental disconnect from our true, intuitive self. We learn to stop trusting our own feelings, our own reality. This constant low-grade stress of emotional neglect and self-betrayal gets stored in the body. It throws our nervous system out of balance. To understand this, Dr. LePera introduces a beautifully simple way to think about our nervous system, based on something called polyvagal theory. Imagine your nervous system has 3 settings, like a traffic light. The green light state is social engagement. This is when you feel safe, calm, and connected. Your body is relaxed. You can think clearly. You can learn. You can play. And you can connect with others. This is our natural, balanced state. The yellow light state is fight or flight. When your brain perceives a threat, whether it's actual danger or just a harsh email from your boss, it hits the gas. Your heart races. Stress hormones like cortisol flood your system, and your body gets ready to either fight the threat or run from it. The red light state is freeze or shutdown. This happens when the threat feels so overwhelming that fighting or running isn't possible. The system slams on the brakes. This is the state of dissociation, of feeling numb, spaced out, or disconnected from your body. It's your body's last-ditch effort to protect you by making you mentally disappear from the experience. This is the spaceship Dr. LePera talks about, where you mentally leave your body to cope. For people who grew up with unresolved trauma, the nervous system gets stuck. It's like the traffic light is broken. You might live in a constant yellow light state of anxiety and hypervigilance, always scanning for danger. Or you might live in a red light state of chronic shutdown, feeling detached and numb. Your body becomes so used to these states that they become your new normal. And this is where we find another layer of why we're stuck. Emotional addiction. Your body actually becomes chemically addicted to the rush of your familiar stress hormones, like cortisol and adrenaline. You unconsciously seek out situations, people, and even thoughts that will give you that familiar hit of anxiety, anger, or drama, because without it, you feel bored, or even worse, numb. Peace feels unsettling. Calm feels like the calm before the storm. So we're running on subconscious programs from a past we don't fully understand. Our bodies are stuck in a dysregulated trauma response, and we're addicted to the very emotions that are making us miserable. Pretty bleak, right? But here's where the light breaks through. This is where the real work begins. The foundation of Dr. LePera's entire philosophy is this: you are not broken. You're simply running on old programming, and you have the power to rewrite it. The first step is waking up from the autopilot, becoming conscious. This isn't some abstract, mystical concept. It's a practice. It starts with learning to observe yourself without judgment, to simply notice your thoughts, your feelings, and your physical sensations as they happen. Dr. LePera emphasizes that you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker of your thoughts. There's a space between you and the endless chatter of your mind. When you find that space, you reclaim your power. This practice of conscious awareness is the gateway to meeting two very important characters who have been running the show from behind the scenes: your inner child and your ego. The inner child is the part of you that holds all of your earliest experiences, your unmet needs, and your deepest wounds. When you have a surprisingly intense emotional reaction to something, like feeling a wave of panic when a friend doesn't text back, that's often your inner child reacting from an old wound of abandonment. It's a little kid in an adult body, terrified of being left alone again. Dr. LePera outlines several inner child archetypes, which are the roles we learn to play to get our needs met. Are you the caretaker, who believes you must serve others to be loved? Or the overachiever, who uses success to prove your worth? Or maybe the life of the party, who hides pain behind a constant smile? Recognizing your archetype is like finding the blueprint for your unconscious patterns. Then there's the ego. If the inner child is the wounded part of you, the ego is its fierce, overprotective bodyguard. The ego's job is to protect you from ever feeling that old pain again. It does this by creating rigid stories about who you are and how the world works. Dr. LePera's story about the dirty dishes is a perfect example. On the surface, she was furious about a messy sink. But when she looked deeper, she realized the dishes were triggering an ego story connected to a core belief from her childhood: I don't matter. The sight of the dishes transported her back to being a small, invisible child, feeling her mother's anxiety but being completely unseen. Her ego's rage was a protective shield, screaming, "Don't you dare make me feel that way again." These ego stories run our lives. They make us defensive, judgmental, and reactive. The work here isn't to destroy the ego, but to befriend it, to observe its stories with compassion, and understand that it's just trying to protect that vulnerable child inside. Once we become conscious of these inner dynamics, we can finally begin the process of healing. And this brings us to the heart of how to do the work: reparenting. Reparenting is the act of becoming the wise, loving parent to yourself that you may not have had. It's about consciously and consistently giving your inner child what it never received. This isn't about blaming your parents. It's about taking responsibility for your own healing now. Dr. LePera breaks this down into 4 practical pillars. First is emotional regulation. This is learning to feel your feelings without letting them control you. It's remembering the 90-second rule. The physical sensation of an emotion only lasts for about 90 seconds. It's the stories we attach to it that make it last for hours or days. By using tools like deep belly breathing, you can learn to calm your nervous system and allow the emotional wave to pass without being swept away by it. Second is loving discipline. This is about rebuilding trust with yourself. So many of us are stuck in a cycle of self-betrayal, constantly making and breaking promises to ourselves. Loving discipline is the practice of making one small, daily promise and keeping it. It could be as simple as drinking 1 glass of water every morning, like the story of Allie, who went from being confined to her couch with MS to reclaiming her life, one small promise at a time. Each time you keep that promise, you send a powerful message to your subconscious. I am reliable. I am trustworthy. I show up for myself. Third is self-care. This isn't about bubble baths and indulgence. It's the fundamental act of listening to and honoring your body's needs for proper nutrition, movement, and especially sleep. It's recognizing that your physical well-being isn't separate from your mental well-being. They're one and the same. And the fourth pillar is childlike wonder or play. So many of us have forgotten how to do things just for the joy of it, without a goal or purpose. Play isn't a luxury. It's a biological necessity. Dancing, singing, creating, or simply being spontaneous helps regulate our nervous system and reconnects us to our authentic, joyful selves. As you practice reparenting, you begin to build a solid foundation of self-trust and self-worth. From this foundation, you can start to implement one of the most transformative tools of all, boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're clear lines that define where you end and another person begins. They're the ultimate act of self-care. For those who grew up in enmeshed families, where everyone's emotions and needs were tangled together, the very idea of having separate needs can feel selfish or wrong. Learning to say no without guilt, to protect your time and energy, and to communicate your needs clearly isn't about controlling others. It's about honoring yourself. It teaches people how to treat you and frees you from the resentment that builds up when your needs are constantly unmet. As all of these pieces come together, the conscious awareness, the inner child work, the reparenting, the boundaries, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to develop emotional maturity. Emotional maturity isn't about your age. It's about your ability to tolerate discomfort. It's the ability to hold space for your own emotions and for someone else's, even when they're different from yours. It's moving from a reactive state to a responsive one. It's taking accountability for your part in every situation. It's understanding that you're not responsible for other people's feelings, and they're not responsible for yours. This entire journey, from stuck and unconscious to self-aware and emotionally mature, isn't meant to be done in isolation. The ultimate goal of doing the work isn't just to heal yourself, but to heal your connection to others. This leads to the final stage of the journey, interdependence. So many of us live in a state of codependence, where we lose ourselves in others to feel whole, or fierce independence, where we build walls to protect ourselves. Interdependence is the beautiful middle ground. It's the state of being separate together. It's when two whole, authentic individuals can come together, honor each other's boundaries, and support each other's growth without losing themselves. This is what authentic love and true community are built on. Dr. LePera's own story comes full circle here. After years of doing the work, which included the painful but necessary step of creating distance from her family to find herself, she was finally able to reconnect with them from a new place of wholeness and strength. She was no longer a reactive child trapped in old dynamics. She was a self-healed adult, capable of choosing how she wanted to show up in those relationships. And that, in the end, is the most powerful message of this book. Healing isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a daily, conscious choice. A choice to show up for yourself. A choice to witness your patterns with compassion. A choice to give yourself what you need. A choice to break the cycle. The work isn't easy. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, and it never truly ends. But it's also the most rewarding journey you'll ever take. Because at the end of that path lies the person you were always meant to be, waiting for you to come home. As we wrap up our journey through how to do the work, I want to take a moment to reflect on why this book has resonated so deeply with so many people. It's not just another self-help book. It's a complete shift in perspective. It takes the power out of the hands of experts and places it squarely back into your own. The central, empowering message is this: you are your own best healer. For generations, we've been taught to see our mental and emotional struggles as signs that we're broken. as chemical imbalances or lifelong diagnoses that can only be managed, never truly healed. Dr. LePera gently but firmly dismantles that story. She shows us that our anxiety, our depression, our feeling of being stuck, these aren't who we are. They're the logical, physical consequences of our past experiences and learned patterns. They're messages from a body that's trying its best to keep us safe, using a survival map that's simply outdated. Perhaps the most liberating idea in the entire book is the expanded definition of trauma. By acknowledging that trauma includes the subtle, ongoing wounds of emotional neglect, of not being seen or heard, Dr. LePera gives a voice to a silent suffering that millions have felt but could never name. It validates the pain of those who thought, "I have no right to feel this way. My childhood wasn't that bad." This book gives you permission to honor your story, whatever it looks like. But this isn't a book that leaves you dwelling on the past. It's relentlessly practical and forward-looking. The beauty of Dr. LePera's work is that it connects the why with the how. It's not enough to know why you're stuck. You need the tools to get unstuck. The concepts of reparenting, setting boundaries, and making small daily promises aren't abstract theories. They're concrete actions you can start taking today. So how can you begin to apply these lessons in your own life, right now? Let's distill it down to 3 simple actions. First, make one small promise to yourself and keep it for a week. Don't try to overhaul your entire life overnight. Remember Allie's story. It started with a single glass of water. What's your glass of water? Maybe it's stretching for 2 minutes when you wake up. Maybe it's putting your phone away an hour before bed. The action itself matters less than the act of showing up for yourself. This is how you begin to rebuild the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. Second, the next time you feel a strong, difficult emotion, anger, anxiety, sadness, try practicing the 90-second rule. Before you attach a story to the feeling, just for a moment, try to witness it purely as a physical sensation in your body. Where do you feel it? Is it a tightness in your chest? A heat in your face? A knot in your stomach? Just observe it, breathe into it, and remind yourself that it will pass. You're learning to separate your reaction from your sensation. And third, start a dialogue with your inner child. The next time you feel overly reactive or find yourself in a familiar, painful pattern, gently ask yourself, what does the little one inside of me need right now? You might be surprised by the answer. Often what the inner child needs isn't a grand solution. It simply needs to be seen, to be heard, and to be told, "I'm here. You're safe. I've got you." That was our deep dive into How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera. We've explored the highlights today, but I'll be honest with you. A summary can only guide you to the trailhead. The real journey happens when you walk the path yourself. The true power of this book unfolds in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple idea resonates with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is your map to help you decide if this is a journey you're ready to take. If anything we've talked about today has sparked something within you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about gaining knowledge. It's an experience that can fundamentally change the way you relate to yourself and the world. You'll find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please show some support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the Billionaire's Bookshelf. Let's continue this journey of growth together.